Let's say China.
China.
There are next door neighbors, and you can actually see Russia from land here in Alaska.
You go over to China.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Trump's statement, tweeting out insults to Angela Merkel. What's he doing?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host.
Yes, hello, and welcome to So This Happened. I am James Andrews, and you are listening to So This Happened, the new show that will never be accused of being fair and balanced. It's Thursday, the 8th of June, 2017. And before we go any further, happy birthday, Mrs. Andrews. Happy birthday. And there really are only two stories in the news today. The first one is the British parliamentary election going on right now. The second one is James Comey's testimony today. And that is where I would like to start. And what we're going to do is look at what James Comey said, and then I'm going to be a doomist and tell you why it doesn't matter, even a little bit. So I want to start by playing some of the portions of the testimony, just in case you haven't heard it. So here is the very opening statement from James Comey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ranking Member Warner, members of the committee, thank you for inviting me here to testify today. I've submitted my statement for the record, and I'm not going to repeat it here this morning. I thought I would just offer some very brief introductory remarks, and then I would welcome your questions. When I was appointed FBI Director in 2013, I understood that I served at the pleasure of the President. Even though I was appointed to a 10-year term, which Congress created in order to underscore the importance of the FBI being outside of politics and independent, I understood that I could be fired by a president for any reason or for no reason at all. And on May the 9th, when I learned that I had been fired, for that reason, I immediately came home as a private citizen. But then the explanations, the shifting explanations, confused me and increasingly concerned me. They confused me because the President and I had had multiple conversations about my job, both before and after he took office. And he had repeatedly told me I was doing a great job and he hoped I would stay. And I had repeatedly assured him that I did intend to stay and serve out the remaining 6 years of my term. He told me repeatedly that he had talked to lots of people about me, including our current Attorney General, and had learned that I was doing a great job and that I was extremely well liked by the FBI workforce. So it confused me when I saw on television the President saying that he actually fired me because of the Russia investigation, and learned again from the media that he was telling privately other parties that my firing had relieved great pressure on the Russia investigation.
So there was James Comey, and he didn't start with the opening statement that was released last night, the assumption being that every single person on the planet has already read that. He did open by saying, "It confused me why I was fired, and here are the reasons why," and then he actually continued with that.
I was also confused by the initial explanation that was offered publicly, that I was fired because of the decisions I had made during the election year. That didn't make sense to me for a whole bunch of reasons, including the time and all the water that had gone under the bridge since those hard decisions had to be made. That didn't make any sense to me. And although the law required no reason at all to fire an FBI director, the administration then chose to defame me, and more importantly, the FBI, by saying that the organization was in disarray, that it was poorly led, that the workforce had lost confidence in its leader. Those were lies, plain and simple. And I am so sorry that the FBI workforce had to hear them, and I'm so sorry that the American people were told them.
So there it is, starting with this almost apology, very heartfelt apology I felt to the American people and to the FBI agents for this lie that they were told. that James Comey was disliked in his position, and it turned out he wasn't. Now, there were a few other, what I would maybe classify as bombshells throughout the testimony. When James Comey was asked, why did you start taking notes with these meetings that you were having with Donald Trump, he responded this way.
A combination of things. I think the circumstances, the subject matter, and the person I was interacting with. Circumstances first, I was alone with the President of the United States, or the President-elect, soon to be President. The subject matter, I was talking about matters that touch on the FBI's core responsibility and that relate to the President-elect personally. And then the nature of the person. I was honestly concerned that he might lie about the nature of our meeting, and so I thought it really important to document. That combination of things I'd never experienced before, but it led me to believe I got to write it down, and I got to write it down in a very detailed way.
I mean, this testimony is pretty damning of Donald Trump. I mean, there he has just said, Donald Trump is a liar, and I could not trust the fact that he may not make up lies about me. Now, there was some concern over why, Comey had not said to the president, look, Mr. President, we can't do this. We can't keep having these one-on-one meetings. This is wrong. Now, when the question was posed to him, why didn't you tell the president that it was wrong to have these one-on-one meetings? James Comey responded in a very human way.
It's a great question. Maybe if I were stronger, I would have. I was so stunned by the conversation that I just took it in. And the only thing I could think to say, because I was playing in my mind, because I was going to remember every word he said, I was playing in my mind, what should my response be? And that's why I very carefully chose the words. And look, I've seen the tweet about tapes. Lordy, I hope there are tapes.
And so I think that was a really perfect way to say it for James Comey there. He came across as very human, very competent, and he said, look, I was, overwhelmed in the situation, and my mind's just going, I have to remember everything this guy says, just in case anything should happen. And then one other thing James Comey said in relation to the Russians and hacking the election, and this was a very powerful statement.
There should be no fuzz on this whatsoever. The Russians interfered in our election during the 2016 cycle. They did it with purpose, they did it with sophistication, they did it with overwhelming technical efforts, and it was an active measures campaign driven from the top of that government. There is no fuzz on that. It is a high confidence judgment of the entire intelligence community, and the members of this committee have seen the intelligence. It's not a close call. That happened. That's about as unfake as you can possibly get, and is very, very serious, which is why it's so refreshing to see a bipartisan focus on that, because this is about America, not about any particular party.
And then one last thing that James Comey said was, he was asked, why do you think you were fired? And this is how he responded.
No doubt that it's a fair judgment, it's my judgment, that I was fired because of the Russia investigation. I was fired in some way to change, or the endeavor was to change the way the Russia investigation was being conducted. That is a very big deal, and not just because it involves me. The nature of the FBI and the nature of its work requires that it not be the subject of political consideration. And then on top of that, you have the Russia investigation itself is vital because of the threat. And I know I should have said this earlier, but it's obvious. If any Americans were part of helping the Russians do that to us, that is a very big deal.
So there is James Comey's statement in a nutshell. Okay, he was very damning of the White House and particularly of President Trump. And you'll remember at the very beginning of the episode, I said, I'm going to tell you about James Comey's statements and his testimony, and then I'm going to tell you why it doesn't matter. And here, my friends, unfortunately, is where I have to be a fatalist and a doomist and tell you why this isn't going to make a fucking bit of difference to anything that Donald Trump does. Almost immediately after James Comey had testified, Donald Trump's lawyer, Mark Kasowitz, came out on television and made a statement. Here's a little bit of what he said, which is already the Trump administration putting the push down on James Comey and making him the liar.
The president never, in form or substance, directed or suggested that Mr. Comey stop investigating anyone, including the president never suggested that Mr. Comey, quote, let Flynn go, close quote. As the president publicly stated the next day, he did say to Mr. Comey, quote, General Flynn is a good guy. He has been through a lot, close quote. And also, quote, asked how General Flynn is doing, close quote.
And there's a lot more to that statement. It was about 6.5 minutes. And if you want to listen to it, you can go to YouTube and it's on there everywhere. But already you can see that the Trump administration is pushing back, saying, nope, James Comey is lying under oath. And essentially what we've got here is a he said situation. James Comey says, this is what I wrote down immediately following the meetings. Donald Trump is saying, bullshit, this is what I said during those meetings. Now, Donald Trump had said that he had taped, or he had alluded to the fact that he had maybe taped the meetings with James Comey. And when asked about that today, James Comey said, yeah, please, I give my full permission to release those tapes because what I am saying is the truth. And I can guarantee you now, if there are tapes that were made in the White House of James Comey with Donald Trump, they will never, ever see the light of day. And that may just be my bent because I know who I think I trust more than the other. Yeah, the director or former director of the FBI or a pathological liar who is sitting in the White House. You know, not a difficult choice for me. And now here is why it's not going to matter at all, because already Donald Trump's supporters have been pushing back on this, saying James Comey looked like a fool, he made an idiot of himself, he looked weak, he looked like a liar, Donald Trump is fantastic. And I would just like to read some quotes from some Trump supporters from some different forums and websites that I've found, and this will give you an idea of what people are thinking about this. One quote simply says, Comey is the leaker. Okay? The next quote, listen and weep, Trump haters. President Trump will be our president for the next 8 years. Your attempt to bring him down for no legitimate reason will fail. Sounds to me like Comey committed perjury. Another quote says, 10,000 new Trump supporters created today. And another one that just says, Dems lost again, with a couple of, I think they're smiley faces, but I think he put sad faces, but I think he probably meant to put smiley faces. And then another one is fake news confirmed. I mean, these go on and on and on, and you can look at all this, and his base will never admit to any wrongdoing, and we haven't heard from Donald Trump himself yet. It looks like somebody threw his phone away and said, if you fucking tweet today, you are in serious trouble. I would have loved it if he had, because I'd like to know, what the horse... No, wait, not the horse. What is it? From the horse's mouth? Yeah, the horse's arse. What is the quote? Is it straight from the horse's arse? We'll just go with that. I would like to hear it straight from the horse's arse. What he really thinks of this. But honestly, his supporters, they don't care. I listened to some conservative radio right after the testimony of James Comey, and people were just calling in saying, James Comey's an idiot. He made a fool out of himself, and it just proves that the president is right and perfect. I mean, this is literally what they were saying, and I'm thinking to myself, well, did we listen to an entirely different testimony? Because all I heard in that testimony was James Comey sort of damning Donald Trump, even though he did say that Donald Trump himself is not under direct investigation for Russian collusion. He didn't say that nobody in the Trump administration wasn't. So for them, all they heard there was Donald Trump isn't under investigation, the man is vindicated, we win. And that is just how it's always going to be, unfortunately. So, God, I'm a doomist. I don't want to say, well, strap in for another 3 years, folks. But if it's anything to go by, his base, they still love him. Whatever James Comey said today made no difference, because all they heard in their minds was a little weak man making fun of their leader, Donald Trump, and all then they heard was, oh, well, Donald Trump isn't under investigation, we win. And that's that. And then I did say I'd get to the British election today, but in Britain, when there's an election, the press are not allowed to talk about it for the entire day of that. So I actually have nothing to talk about on it, so we'll discuss that tomorrow. And I don't want to depress everyone. I did, didn't I? Oh, fuck, man, I did, didn't I? I just made everyone really depressed because everyone was so excited about this Comey testimony, and so was I. I loved it, thought it was brilliant. And then I listened to his supporters and his fan base, and I couldn't believe it. I don't have words, and I don't know how to get through to people like that. I know people, and there's literally no way to get through to them. We heard two completely different testimonies today. And it's also with the senators and the congressmen. If you listen to, the interviews with them afterwards, we were literally hearing two different testimonies, and I don't know how to reconcile that. I'm not sure if anyone knows how to reconcile that. So, maybe Barack Obama can come back. That might help. Anyway, listen, that's it. End of the show. I will chat with you tomorrow, and we'll have lots more information about this, I'm sure, and we'll also have the results of the British election. So have a great evening, take care, and goodbye.
And you can actually see Russia from land.